Air, earth, fire, and water, the four elements of planet Earth, free, plentiful, and always available. Using these elements in your healing process is one of the most positive and powerful purifications you can do for yourself. In the following video, you will be shown some very simple techniques for using air, earth, fire, and water as effective tools in releasing old, stuck emotions, cleansing your physical and emotional body, clearing your unconscious death urge, and becoming a happier, freer, more prosperous person. In each following symbols represents one of Earth's four elements. There are two levels present in each element, the lower vibrational rate and the higher. The lower vibrational rate consists of what you might think of as the basic, more common uses of the element. The higher, its ability to transform, transmute, heal, and bring from a physical reality to an etheric reality. Fire, lower vibrational rate. Burning, pain, heat. Higher vibrational rate. Flame, transmutation, animation.
One thing that happened to me one time before I had ever heard about air, earth, fire, water purification was a friend of mine and I had been pheasant hunting and drinking beer all day, which was our usual thing to do in the fall or winter. It was a day kind of like today, sunny, a little snow around, and as I lit a cigarette, I just threw my match down in front of me and some dried leaves and it started a little fire. And we both just sat there and started adding leaves to the fire, a little bit at a time, about like this size. And we were just leaning against the log in the sun, and we just kept tossing little bits of sticks and leaves on the fire. And sat there like that, talking and playing, throwing things on the fire like this for about an hour. And when we stood up to leave that spot, I really felt like something was different, something had happened during that hour sitting in front of a little fire. And it took me 2 more years before I It took me 2 more years before I quit drinking and started reading about purification. But when I read about fire purification, I knew instantly that it had made some changes in me just from using it one time. And I knew that what I was reading had some truth in it. So one way to use fire for purification is to build a small fire or a large one and sit in front of it, because fire actually burns some of the suppressed emotions out of our aura, especially the emotion of hostility. For my foot. So if you sit in front of a fire, even this small, for an hour, 2 or 3 a week, it will help to move out a lot of stuck emotions, especially hostility, grief, resentment, all suppressed resentment. It affects the second chakra the most, but it also affects the heart. One of the important things of working with fire that you will learn after a while is how to feed the fire constantly and evenly, depending on the size of fire you want. As the fire consumes the material, it represents the way we consume and digest things that happen in our reality. And as you notice after you play with fire for a while, that if you put too many large sticks on too fast, the fire can't digest it, it'll go out. If you only put on small sticks, the fire will also burn itself out very quickly. So depending on the size of fire you want, you have to add the right size and the right amount of material. And so it is with life, of handling our upsets or handling our reality. We want to not bite off more than we can chew, and we also want to not get lazy about it and stop chewing altogether. So the fire will teach you things like that as you work with it over the years. Since I first learned about fire, I learned about even higher forms of fire, such as rituals and ceremonies. I learned a fire ritual in India from Babaji, where he would offer food in the form of grain and sweet fruits to the fire. And the food contains our prayers or our thoughts. And the fire transforms these thoughts into higher dimensions, where they're received by the beings who will do the most good with these thoughts or prayers. So the fire, highest aspect of fire is that it transmutes from a denser reality to a finer reality. Transmutes from physical reality right up to the etheric reality. Carlos Castaneda's teacher, Don Juan, worked a lot with fire with Carlos, and he would have Carlos gather sticks, build a big fire that was very smoky, and then he would have him sit in front of it and let the smoke purify his aura along with the fire. In one of his books, Carlos mentions that he used to dread the thought of picking up the sticks because he knew he was going to have to sit in front of the smoke for a long time until the fire died down. The longest fire I ever did was 40 days, 40 nights. I kept the fire going in a fire pit that I built out of the earth. And the energy of the area just increased and increased every day. I use it to create prosperity in my reality with. And the way I do that is when I feel I have a lot of energy, positive energy, I just use a positive affirmation. I take a deep breath, like for instance, God supports me. And I feel the energy of that affirmation coming into my body. And if I feel it block somewhere, if I don't feel it come all the way down to my toes, then I know I have to release some negative emotions or thoughts around God supporting me. This is the way I do all my business. Just use positive affirmations and work on myself, and God supports me. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to advertise. I don't have to argue. I don't have to worry about money. Well, the way the subconscious works is as soon as you release or burn up or wash away any negative thought or emotion, it'll bring up the next one for you to release. So it's kind of a continuous process. It might take 2, 3, or 4 years of using air, earth, fire, water in order to get clear. So let's say this fire burns up the surface layer of hostility out of my aura. That hostility will get replaced with a higher positive vibration. And then I can use that vibration to create my reality by making a wish list and by doing positive affirmations. And that's all I have to do. You see, God wants us to be prosperous and happy. And so all we have to do is remove our blocks and it'll happen. We don't have to do anything else. We just have to clean up our act. Remove our old stuffed emotions and we'll be happy. The belief on earth is that God wants us to suffer. And that belief creates suffering. But as we clean off the layers of old stuck emotions, happiness comes in automatically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's too easy. We are so tied into the belief of struggle, you know. We can't think about that it could be easy and pleasurable to be alive on earth. That's one of the reasons the death urge is so strong. When I first told my mother about physical immortality, she was appalled at the idea because she had so much pain. She wanted to die. So if you can't get rid of the old emotions that cause pain, people tend to want to die. It's too easy. Right. Belief in struggle creates struggle, and the releasing struggle creates happiness. What else?
This is cedar, which balances the negative and the positive. Cedar is a sacred. And the combination of the cedar on the charcoal is fire and earth purification. The use of cedar, sage, and sweetgrass is out of the tradition of my Native American ancestors. Sweetgrass brings in the sweetness, the happiness. Cedar, sage, sweetgrass, and tobacco are the four sacreds. They're used for purification. And when you use them in this way, it's called smudging. Well, cleanses the aura. Bring a little sweetness to the camera. Smudging cleanses the aura. When you begin with cedar, and that balances the positive and the negative. You then use the sweet grass, which brings in the sweet spirits. And when you make your prayer, you use tobacco. What I will do is take a pinch of tobacco and pray with it in my hand, and then drop it onto the charcoal, and my prayers then go up to the Great Spirit. And when I'm finished and completed a ceremony, then the sage is put on. This is one way that persons using a charcoal burner and a little iron pot in a little ashtray is one way that people who live in urban settings can do ceremony and can utilize the fire and the earth elements. And it's also enhanced by the use of the iron pot, because that comes from the earth too. So it's a combination of the fire and earth purification.
Fire. All the energy that is inside the body are outside the body. Natural fire outside the body come from lightning strikes, meteor strikes, pressure and gases from within the earth, magma and the sun. From inside the body, motion, electric current impulses, chemical reaction, the heater fire from within cells to warm the body. There's the man-made fires of intimidation, wars and violence of all kinds. There is also the fires of passion, true love making, giving birth and building, creating lives. Magnetic and electro judgment and emotional release of fire is extremely helpful to our cleaning and the transformative property for fire. I no longer choose to ignore the importance of fire in life and to my home, the earth, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. I no longer choose to ignore the fire of rage, resentment, hatred and what it creates, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. I no longer choose to believe that the human fire that is created by the denied feelings of hate, rage, anger, fear, passion, euphoric creativity will never be healed, unraveled, undenied, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. I no longer choose to support the lying, denial, suppression of fire, true intelligence, nature inside and outside of the body, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. I no longer choose to hold the scientific belief that all things in our universe are just material, including fire, and it nothing more than thinks, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. I no longer choose to believe that the brain fire setting of reptilian brain dominant will not be allowed to evolve, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. I no longer choose to believe that the brain fire setting of reptilian brain dominance will not be for true emergencies as it was designed to be, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. I no longer choose to believe that the way I treat fire has no effect on our environment, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. I no longer choose to empower in any forms the fire of force, intimidation, war, stealing, denial, crimes, or overpowering others, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. I no longer choose to believe that the fire of intent to healing, recovering full spiritual presence is limited to a select few people. I like people that think like me, an exclusive club, women or men or children, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. I no longer choose to hide or deny my love of fire as a form of living spirit on earth, and I forgive myself for the judgments involved. Be mindful when working with fire. It takes time to build understanding and rapport with fire. If you unsure, seek help from someone with experience to full human potential.